when he's at the subway or whatever, the stairs, and everyone is just kind of walking past and talking to their OSs, and there's such an interesting thing that happens there because he says to her, "Is anyone else? Are you talking to anyone else right now?" And she says, "I don't know how to tell you this," or "I was trying to think of a way to tell you this," and then she says like 8,000 other people or
Yeah.
OSs that she's talking to, and he just has this beautiful like pause where he's trying to process the fact that his girlfriend is talking first to like 8,000 whatever other people. Then he asks her, "Are you only in love with me? Do you only love me?" I think that's the one where she says, "I was trying to figure out how to tell you this." Because then she says 641 or something like
Yeah.
that. There are like 641 other OSs or people that she's currently like romantically involved with.
Yeah.
And then they start to have like this ultimate disagreement and disparity.
So she's ultimately non-monogamous.
I think you could say that. Yeah, just a little bit.
Also, something Spike Jonze got right with this movie, because that's a thing in the dating world now too.
Oh, sure, yeah,
Yeah, ethical non-monogamy.
polyamory.
Yeah, polyamory,
Yeah.
ethical non-monogamy.
Absolutely.
11 years ago.
Yeah, no, that's totally true. That's totally true.
11 years ago, that was not a thing, from what I remember.
Yeah, no, for sure. I
mean, it's always been a thing. It's just
it's always been
like
a thing.
in the dating world.
Right. It didn't have its own label and people know about it and it's talked about and so on. Yeah. But I just think that this is a really interesting moment because this is the moment of divergence where she's basically they're not being able to communicate anymore because she basically says to him, "No, you don't understand. I don't know how to explain it to you, but I still love you." She even says like, "I love you even more now." And then that causes a syntax error in his mind, right? Because he says to her, that's not possible. You're either mine or you're not mine." And then she has this cool response where she says, "No, Theo, you're mine and you're not mine." And I just love the performance and the rhythm slowing down in that scene and the silences because we can really see now what's happening here. This evolution, and it's coming. This is coming up to a big question that I want to ask before we get to our final image coming up in our final sequence.
I've told you already. I'm not giving you my social security number.
Too bad.
I learned that lesson already. I learned not to do that again.
All right. I'll also never ask you to strangle me with a dead cat. I think that's another thing that I learned about you.
That's a given.
That's a given. Yeah, for sure. For most people, not sexy kitten, but no. This huge question that I have is: do you think, just because we're talking about the progression of the Samantha Theo relationship and how it kind of ends, and I was thinking about this question the whole movie while I was rewatching it. Is there a comparison? Is there a correlation between how Samantha leaves and then moves on from Theo and how Catherine does? Because it's almost as if the AI sort of expanding its consciousness and leaving and all that kind of stuff, it works, I think, in some kind of a metaphor for just the progression of any love, a relationship between two people or two entities. And it made me think about this question of, does that correlate with how the relationship went sour between the other two? Does Catherine evolve to know? It could be something as simple as just knowing the flaws of Theo well enough, or something like that. in order to move on, because they do use he uses the words, or someone uses the words, Catherine moved on from Theo. Like, is there sort of a connection there between how Catherine left Theo and how Samantha did? What do you think
I
about that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I didn't think about that when I was
Mm-hmm.
watching the film. And I,
Mm-hmm.
I guess I would lead with I don't know,
Yeah.
which is a very disappointing answer.
That's fine.
But I think I would being on the spot, I would say no, only because Catherine and Samantha to me serve two different functions.
Mm-hmm.
And Catherine is she's not even the hurdle. She's not the main challenge of the story. Because Theo's main objective or objective he is ignoring is signing the divorce papers.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to sign the divorce papers because when he does, he has to let her go.
Mm-hmm.
And when he does when they do sign the divorce papers at the restaurant, he is letting her go there,
Mm-hmm.
but he is still I would argue he is still coming to terms with that,
Mm-hmm.
and he is searching for something to make him whole, which is love. And he
Mm-hmm.
thinks that he has found that with Samantha, but what we get throughout the film is also this little relationship he's got going on with Amy. They're friends. They dated for a minute in college.
Mm-hmm.
Amy clearly is not doing great with her husband, and then we learn that she is divorcing her husband.
Yeah.
And when Samantha and the other OSs leave, and I think that's why they do the scene, the pre-leaving scene in the cabin, where, like I said before, there's all of these organic elements. They're away from the city and even the little things they're using to make tea with flame.
Mm-hmm.
It's starting to indicate to us or communicate to us that what Theodore needs is a human connection.
Yeah.
And that's why it ends the way that it does. But I think Samantha is in a way a vehicle for him to get past his relationship with Catherine, because he also doesn't write his apology letter to Catherine until after Samantha leaves.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that conversation on the staircase is important for him to realize that he has to write that apology letter to Catherine.
Yeah.
So I don't think that Samantha is analogous to Catherine. I think that Samantha is the lesson Theodore needed to have
Yeah.
to move on. And it's like with real life. Sometimes you leave a relationship and then you develop a new relationship, and in that relationship you realize that you may not have been your best self, or maybe the person you
Yeah.
were with was not their best self, and somebody needs to apologize and somebody needs to forgive. Or realizing that maybe there's no apologies and forgiveness required. It's just recognizing that you two might not have been right for each other. But I think that
Yeah.
Samantha is the one that ultimately teaches Theodore the lesson he needs to learn. And he
Yeah.
comes to this conclusion.
Yeah. And
Through it.
that also reminds me of when Samantha and Theo are having their last conversation right before she leaves, and Samantha says something. Oh no, Theo says, I never loved anyone the way that I loved you." And she says, "Same with me." And she says, "Now we know we can,"
Mm-hmm.
or "Now we know how." Something like that. Like, that's the takeaway. That's what they've learned. And that was very powerful to me. Just the fact that we know that we can love and be loved by someone else in this capacity and take that with us and grow and move on. Because remember, in the beginning of the movie, Theo has this line where he says, "I'm worried that I felt everything in life that there is to feel,
Mm-hmm.
and that everything in the future is just going to be a lesser version of what I've already felt." Right? So that works very harmoniously with that, with where the story goes in the end here, where he realizes that he's never loved anyone the way that he loved Samantha. And before Samantha, he thought that he couldn't feel anything that would surprise him anymore. So he's taking that with him. And I think you're right. He's learning so many different lessons from what the relationship with Samantha has taught him.